Okay, so I know that I had the crown last episode, but I feel like the bow is more thematically accurate. I'll do both. I'm gonna look cute no matter what. So, show of hands, who else here had Alfonso Cuarón's A Little Princess as a staple of their childhood?
Yes, you heard right. Alfonso Cuarón, the man largely responsible for sending the Harry Potter franchise on its dark and angsty trend, was also the director of the lighthearted childhood classic of many a 90s kid.
And man, is it a 90s kids movie. From the unfailingly precious protagonist, to the super obviously evil villain, to the leaps of logic, to, the deus ex machina. I love it so much.
And because I love it, I will do my best not to corrupt your memories of it too much, but I make no promises. I will, however, say that this is a very good way to introduce a child to the concepts of feminism.
All women are princesses. It is our right.
Okay, cool. Just a couple of questions. Does that require that you have 2 X chromosomes, or are transgender women eligible for princesshood? Is there an application that you have to fill out? Is there a merchandising opportunity, a benefits package? Do I have to supply my own crown? And can a princess be kicked out for bad behavior?
I suppose the point is that every girl should be treated like a princess, which means with respect and courtesy. But it's hard to take that philosophy quite as seriously as when Sarah says it later, because, well, she hasn't exactly been honoring that philosophy by punching back at her antagonists.
Not that Miss Minchin of Lavinia's behavior is acceptable, because it's totally not, but Sarah's holier-than-thou attitude comes off as hypocritical when we've seen her troll both of them at least once in the narrative.
But I suspect that has more to do with obligatory 90s-ness than anything else. The Meanie McMeanie pantses must be given some level of comeuppance while our scrappy protagonists nobly endure being all...
I have done nothing wrong, ever, in my life.
All that being said, Sarah's cute as a button, so I can't stay mad at her hypocrisy for long.
Sarah isn't all that distinct as a protagonist, but in narratives like these, that's kind of the point. She's the audience surrogate, and in this case, the audience is children, specifically little girls. It kind of makes sense that she'd be an adorable, wide-eyed vacuum of wish fulfillment that similarly aged audience members can easily use as a self-insert.
Now, as a reminder, wish fulfillment characters are not inherently bad. Female ones do tend to get a lot more crap for it than male ones do, but in this screenplay, pretty much all the characters can be boiled down to a few simple characteristics because, well, screenwriters tend to think that kids are stupid.
Miss Minchin is the prime example of this. From the moment she's introduced, everything about her just screams that she's evil. The dialogue, the framing, the acting, evil, all the way through. The closest we ever get to character development from her is one brief moment after Sarah gives her defiant little speech, and it's not clear whether Minchin's upset because she hasn't managed to break the plucky young heart of her nemesis, or because she's having a sad that her daddy didn't treat her like a princess.
Quick, make her do something super evil so that we're not confused at all about who to root for.
This child has no father. Take her away! No!
That'll do.
One hurdle that the movie clears with ease is the infamous Bechdel test. There are multiple named female characters, they all talk to each other at least once, and more than once, it is not about a man.
That being said, the Bechdel test is not a meter of whether or not a film is actually feminist. It should not be considered the be-all and end-all. What it is a meter of representation, and an incomplete one at that.
But that in and of itself offers an interesting reversal. Because of the simplistic nature of the film and the predominantly female cast, the male characters are practically plot devices, functioning almost entirely to fit the needs of our heroine and the narrative as a whole. This is especially true for Ram Dass, something which gives him the unfortunate side effect of being the Indian version of a magical Negro.
I hate that term. But Noble Savage isn't exactly any better. And this is a carryover from the novel, which means we now have to talk about British imperialism.
No matter the era that A Little Princess gets set in, it's always at a point in time when India was a colony of the British Empire. And because we're shown the story through Sarah's eyes, there's no acknowledgement that she, and many like her, benefit from the exploitation of India and its resources and people. The country might as well be Narnia for how idyllic and perfect it seems, and all of its citizens seem to be only too happy to spout off generic wisdom and help Sarah reach her happy ending. We at La Femme Fictionale would now like to take the time to remind you that childhood cannot actually be ruined by pointing out flaws in the media which you consumed, and is instead a mark of how much you have matured as a person if you can recognize the problematic aspects of a thing while still enjoying it.
Honestly though, I think the most awkward part of this is seeing Sir Davos in Blueface.
Liam Cunningham is dual cast as Sarah's father and as Prince Rama in the fantasy sequences as Sarah retells India's most famous epic, the Ramayana. And the blue-faced casting works so long as one is going solely for a Brechtian alienation effect and not thinking too hard about the little white girl appropriating the signature story of a culture that isn't hers and applying it to her own life.
And now that we've talked that into the ground, let's address the good aspect of ignoring the conquest of an entire subcontinent. Sarah doesn't see color. I realize how bad that sounds. Hear me out.
Because she lived in the idealized fantasy version of India, Sarah doesn't understand the idea that people of color might be inferior for some reason, which is how she bridges the gap with Becky, who was a white Cockney girl in the novel, changed to an African American for the film since they had relocated the school to New York.
Now, New York doesn't have Cockney people, and most little kids have not seen My Fair Lady, which means they're completely unaware of what verbal class distinction is, but they do have some inkling of what racism is.
As such, because Sarah has grown up around people of color all her life and considers them friends, the idea that they're lesser is completely nonsensical to her. Ergo, she has no reason to not want to be Becky's friend, even before her demotion to servant.
And it's all very, very precious, with all the good and the bad that implies.
This is one of the less obnoxious cases of child acting in a film. The dialogue is utterly trite at times, in particular one conversation about dead moms being angels, but all the young actresses, if not genuinely talented, are at least suited to the two character traits they've been given by the script. Lottie is the bratty baby, Ermengarde is shy and awkward, and Lavinia is a trial run for Draco Malfoy.
Unfortunately, Lavinia's comeuppance is nowhere near as satisfying as what Cuarón got to do to Draco Malfoy.
Malfoy, you okay? Let's go! Quick! Let's go away!
Run for a word to anyone, understood?
That felt good.
Very good. Lavinia never gets that level of punishment, or any, really. She gets called out for being a bully a couple of times, and her friends slowly leave her, but there's no real karmic retribution. When she shows up at the end, she's just kind of there and apologetic.
I guess they wanted to go easy on her because she was a kid, but I'm genuinely shocked that Miss Minchin just ended up a chimney sweep working for a boy she'd mistreated earlier rather than, in jail.
Okay, I'm not an expert on New York legal history or anything, but wouldn't Captain Crew be within his rights to press charges against Minchin for abusing his child? Or was the judge just really lenient and only gave her community service?
Lack of proper retribution aside, this is still a pretty good introduction not just for feminism, but for how to be an ally. Because Sarah is a really good one, able to sense the needs of those around her and do her best to help them from there. She comforts Lottie, helps Ermengarde gain confidence, gives Becky gifts to try and make her life easier, and in general just tries to make the people around her happy.
Which, yes, be the Sarah in your friend group in that respect. Just don't make it all about you.
Okay, that's unfair. It's Sarah's story, of course it's about her. But again, by virtue of being the lead in a 90s kids movie, there's not a lot of depth to her character. Not that Liesl Matthews isn't trying her hardest, there are moments in her performance that are genuinely heartbreaking, but a lot of the movie just seems like it's coasting on her ability to be cute while saying precious dialogue that she's been given.
But Narn does not a film make. Excellent filmmaking, on the other hand, does.
Cuarón does a very good job of depicting the world through the eyes of a child, adding a sense of magic and wonder to the mundane, and balancing out some genuine drama. The one thing he can't seem to handle that well in this film is the comedy, in particular the cringe humor surrounding the character of Amelia. The younger Miss Minchin is yet another soul empowered by Sarah. In her case, it's getting the confidence she needs to be able to hook up with the equally shy milkman, Francis. But the movie's tasteful streak of not making fat jokes at her expense comes to a crashing halt mere moments before the emotional climax of the film.
Oh my god.
Well, somebody saw Robin Hood Men in Tights. This moment is just so tonally dissonant from the rest of the film at that point. It's distracting. But you know what? I'm glad that Amelia gets her fairy tale princess moment, because there are just as many Amelias in the world as there are Sarahs, and maybe even more.
Amelia is shy, awkward, stuck in a job she's not good at, easily stressed, uncomfortable around children, clearly has some self-esteem issues going on, and her only family member that we ever see is an awful bully. Even though she doesn't get a lot of screen time, it makes her instantly relatable when she is there. I found that watching the movie through adult eyes made it much easier to relate to her than to any of the children.
And you know what? I give the film credit for not having Francis reject her and then pairing her up with Captain Crew at the end, because that's definitely what a lesser kids film would have done.
Because that's a narrative choice that would have betrayed Amelia's character. She doesn't need to be a mother figure, she needs to be able to find herself first. And the same could be said for Sarah, but obviously she's still too young to go out on her own. But she's clearly grown and matured since the start of the story.
Indicated by a clever little bit of costuming with the shrinkage of her hat. What? Did you think I wasn't going to get in at least one comment about the costuming? This is quality Edwardian stuff.
A Little Princess definitely isn't timeless as a film, as the tropes of the 90s are too apparent, but it definitely can still resonate with audiences for reasons that aren't just based in nostalgia. The message is clearly strong enough that Team Star Kid felt they could pinch it.
Equality will finally come to this kingdom for all. From now on, everyone is a princess.
The best phrase to describe this film is probably childishly thoughtful. Cuarón's direction gives the story a mature edge, while the subject matter itself and much of the dialogue is anchored in schmaltz.
So give it a watch and awaken the little princess inside yourself. And if you have little ones, this serves as a great introduction to them for the building blocks of feminism and equality.
Merci beaucoup for watching, everyone. If you like what I do, please like the video, leave a comment, share it around to your friends, subscribe, anything that could help my channel reach a wider audience. I love making these videos, I love talking about these subjects, and I'd love to do it more. Please also feel free to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I love talking to you guys, I love answering questions there. It's just a lot of fun.
If you're not stuck as an indentured servant in an attic, please come support us on Patreon, where you can choose future episodes, vote on Lady of the Month, and get access to a whole bunch of other perks. And in the meantime, you better buckle up, because our first Patreon request is coming next month, and we're going Disney.